What's going on? It's time for another episode of Too Hard for the Radio, transmitting from the future free state of Greater Idaho, where it's official, I am a fucking prophet. I am the one-armed madman. And back with me today from the Badlands of Southern Montana, he's got his mic in a drawer, everybody. It's Nolan 5150. What's up, man? How we doing?
Oh, shit, dude. Well, you know, I don't like to say the C word, but I think I got
no. I think I
news
had it
around
too,
the COVID.
actually. I was sick as shit for a couple of weeks there. It's still in my lungs,
Yeah.
but it's starting to get kicked out now. But man, nasty stuff. Anyways, like I said, I told you off there, I got a crazy story for you this week, and you can just go ahead and call me Uncle Ted because I'm a fucking prophet. So, like, as you know, I've been on this kick of watching fucking cop videos, and I just been kind of noticing things, trends. This is how, you know, how they operate in certain circumstances, let's say. And have I told you about my newest tenant yet? The stinky guy? All right, I got this guy. He's living in my fucking house.
Him, yeah.
I rented to him over the phone, and I kind of, you know, I did the phone interview, and he seemed fine, so I rented him the place. And when he showed up, right off the bat, I was like, holy shit, this guy is fucking weird. Like, as I'm talking to him for the first time, he's walking circles in my living room. I'm like, oh my God, this is probably not good. But at that point, I've already, like, security deposits done. And I'm kind of thinking, like, this guy's a fucking tweaker. He's kind of got big eyes. He's walking around fucking circles. And he's in his room. He's walking around in there. I can hear the floorboards popping and cracking. He's just walking around in circles. I've caught him doing it in the yard. He was doing it the other day. He was walking around circles in the yard. I go, hey, what the hell are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm just going for a walk. And I'm like, hey, how about around the neighborhood, not around the yard, weirdo? Like, what are you doing to me? You just trying to make me look like a fucking idiot?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Oh, well, I guess I could do that. And it's like, yeah, I guess you could. Anyways, he's out of town. He was out of town for like 3 weeks recently. And so, well, let me backtrack a little bit. A couple weeks after he moved in, he just disappeared. And typically, like when my guys like go out of town or something, they're like, hey, I'm going to be out of town for the weekend or the week or whatever it is. It's just kind of common courtesy and, you know, I'm not dead type of thing. He didn't do that. So after like a week, I was like, this guy could be dead. So I sent him a text. I'm like, hey, man, are you all right? And he said yes. So I didn't think nothing of it. He sent me the rent over PayPal, which is weird because like it costs him, I think, an extra $80 to pay rent over PayPal. And like, I'm not trying to fucking diagnose the guy. So whatever. If it's, as long as the check cashes. And like, so I didn't really question it too much. I know he's like a high anxiety guy. So get this, like when he moved in, you know how like my laundry room backs up to one of my rooms. So I tell the guy, hey, don't be doing your laundry at like 3 o'clock in the morning when people are sleeping and, you know, you're sharing a wall with the laundry room. So his solution to that was I'm not going to do laundry. Because I have anxiety and I don't like being around people during the day. Ever. So I'm just not going to do my laundry. So hey man, like what's going on with the smell? Your room stinks, you stink. Like this is out of control. This is not a conversation I want to have with an adult. Like this is so awkward for both of us. Like what the fuck is going on? And he kind of just him-hawed it. I'll take care of it. And he doesn't. Like a week later, I'm like, dude, this is just out of control. And that's when he tells me he's got anxiety so bad he can't do his fucking laundry. And I was like, dude, that might fly with your parents, but this is the real world. And in the real world, you do your fucking laundry. Like, that's it. So I had to redo my rental contract to add in a section where I have to give him, I said, if I give you 2 written warnings about anything, the next warning, you're gone. Do you need to interject at this point, or should I continue? 3 strikes. 3 strikes, you're out.
3 strikes.
Ball. You know, he's like strikes. Fucking Linus, man. He's just got a cloud of stink around him all the time. So he comes back from being out of town, and I didn't even I don't like talking to the guy. He's weird, and it just is off-putting to me. And so I don't like talking to him. I don't like talking about him because I don't want him to hear me talking about him. And
you just call him. You call him from the backyard.
He's
like,
just,
hey, man.
It's wild. So anyways, like I left out the part where I think like my mom came by and saw him one time. She's like, oh, he's fucking autism coming out the ears. He's not a tweaker. So he's just weird, like autism, fucking crazy guy. So he comes back from town. I don't ask him. I don't care where you are. I really don't want to know. I don't want to talk to you. Give me the money and go away. Like that's the only interactions that I want to have with you. So I don't ask him shit.
Yeah.
And then so he goes out of town again. This is like 3 weeks ago. So a week before the first. And at this point I'm like, whatever. If he didn't get the hint, he's not gonna. So I'm just not gonna check in on him. I'm not his fucking babysitter. If you want to disappear, go for it. I don't give a shit. So he pays me rent. Yeah, he pays me rent over PayPal. And he comes home night before last. I come in from grabbing something. He's going through all the mail. And I go, hey, man, you all right? What's going on? And he's like, yeah, I was in the hospital with an allergic reaction. I was like, whoa. Like, that must be pretty fucking serious to, like, be in the hospital for 3 weeks over an allergic reaction. And I was like, what were you allergic to? Is this something you've never taken before? And he kind of just like, oh, yeah. And didn't really say anything. Huh, that's weird. Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
So back to the police stop videos. I've been noticing trends, and let's just say, without me perjuring myself, that I have taken some mitigating steps to correct my situation in the event of a catastrophe. Read into that all you would like to do. Multiple catastrophes. So one of my things, I was talking to my one of my other tenants the other day, and I was cleaning up the sink that I had that had a bunch of nasty stuff in it. To the trained eye, untrained eye would look like nothing, but to the trained eye would look like something. Again, if you're familiar with this lingo, you have every idea of what I'm talking about. So he's asking me like what I'm doing, and I was like, honestly, dude, like this guy's weird. This other guy drinks a lot. And like, I could see a situation where maybe he gets drunk and like falls down, or like my other weird tenant just has some sort of freak out and calls EMS, and the fucking cops just show up first because that's what cops do. And he was like, yeah, I could see that happening. Said the same thing to my mother the next day. And because I was kind of like, again, doing things and what's going on here, you know? Same thing. So, day before yesterday, I'm sitting on my couch watching police videos. And I look out my window as a cop drives by, and I see him coming to a stop. And I go, that's not good. Is he turning in here? And so I adjust myself so I can look out the front, and there's my crazy roommate standing in the yard going like this. And I just go, holy fuck, I am so fucked right now. I am so fucked right now. Dude, within, like, I call somebody and like, hey, there's cops here. If you don't hear from me in a few minutes, you know what happened. And so within a few minutes, dude, like half a dozen cop cars, fire truck, ambulance, the works. And I'm sitting here like, holy shit, what the fuck do I do? And I see a cop walking up, so I see her walking to the front door.
Say shit.
I go, oh, here we go. So I get Ozzy out, and I put a step in place where, you know how my office is. I'm in my office right now. My front door is right there. I have a window right there, and they're just within a few feet apart. So I have it set up right now where I have a stick in my window that's like 4 inches shorter than the window, so I can open it 4 inches. But if you're outside and you're trying to get in, you can't. So if I'm in a situation where I need to talk to the police and I think they're going to try and press their way in, I can use that. In this situation, I thought it would be a little weird if I did, because I don't know what's going on yet, really. You know, I kind of know what's going on, but I don't really. So I didn't want to be standoffish. I didn't want to be a First Amendment auditor right off the bat. I didn't want them to think that I was going to be an issue or that they had a reason to believe that I was going to be an issue. So I walked out there. And she's like, hey, do you know this guy? I'm like, yeah, he's my tenant. Like, this is, weird. And I was like, what's going on? And she didn't answer my question, which is a red flag. Yeah. She goes, well, he, what does she say? She's like, does he live here? So he lives here? Yeah. Is he like have any mental illnesses? And she just keeps asking me questions. Any mental illnesses? Does he do anything weird? So I start telling her, I'm like, yeah, he fucking talks to himself. He stinks. Like he won't do his laundry because he's got fucking anxiety. Like the guy's weird. I hear him like ranting about food in his room to maybe it's a phone call. Maybe it's an operator. Like, I don't really know if he's talking to anybody or not. And I asked again, so what's going on? She's like, well, he's freaking out saying that he's been up for weeks and somebody's been stealing his medication. And right away, I'm just like, oh, fuck. They're coming in the house. They're coming in the house. And I was like, oh. Yeah, and I was like, and I go, without even addressing the other part, I go, well, that's fucking weird because he got home last night and told me that he's been in the hospital for 3 weeks because of an allergic reaction. She goes, huh, well, that doesn't really add up, does it? No. Like, I don't know. I was like, I honestly, I don't know what to say. And she was like, all right, I'm going to go and figure this out. And I'm like, you need me to stay out here? She's like, nah, you can head back in. I'll let you know if I need anything. And they took him away. And I got fucking lucky, man. I got fucking lucky because I've seen this circumstance play out so many times. And if she wanted to be a cunt and just be like, hey, maybe we got a warrant in here. Maybe one of these guys got a warrant. Hey, can I see your...
Hey, we'll just...
Yeah, let me check your ID.
Let's just take a look around.
They look my name up. Oh, we did a raid here. Oh, this guy was arrested for possession of marijuana. And granted, like, I don't have a lot in the house. Yeah. Exactly. And I don't have a lot in the house right now. If you don't have anything to hide. I didn't have a lot in the house when I got arrested the last time. So it's not like that matters. It was like a half a gram the last time. So like, it's not like that matters at all. And, especially with stolen medication, with the accusation of a stolen medication, she could have went, hey, that's a felony and we need to go in and check this shit out. And
that's,
Yeah, you got nothing to hide,
let's go
right?
in. Let's find all the scripts, and If you have nothing,
and here's
to hide,
the deal.
I
had a long conversation with ChatGPT about this. If he would have said, if they would have taken that like accusation seriously, and he would have granted them permission to search the house, there's nothing I can do about it because he lives here.
Yeah. You'd have been put down, tased, and probably...
Yeah, maybe this time I would have been smart enough to get a lawsuit out of it. But, why can't I be a prophet on things that make me money? I'd love to be a prophet about things
keep
that
your
can
mouth shut.
Actively make me money. But at least this one saved my ass, And nothing would have happened. She was great about it. Like, I've seen these things play out, and you don't get the good cop very often, It's usually the proactive cop who's looking to make arrests. And, it's not hard for them to be like, hey, let me see your ID. And I know I didn't commit a crime. You have no reasonable articulable suspicion that I've committed a crime unless you're taking the crazy guy's threat seriously. And at that point, like, apples and oranges, man, that's an argument between lawyers is all that is. And it doesn't stop me from going in handcuffs,
Mm-hmm. Nope.
And then all the other bullshit that comes along with it.
Yeah. And then what they find after the fact, and then, something pops up. And then your rights that were violated no longer matter because they found something. After they violated.
It depends if the judge would find that they had reasonable articulable suspicion of a crime. A crime was alleged, but was that person who alleged the crime trustworthy enough to actually view it as a crime? Or was this just the delusions of a crazy person? And again, like, it's that comes down to arguments between lawyers. If the state makes a good argument that, like, hey, this guy's freaking out because this guy was stealing his medication. And that's what the cops were thinking. Hey, This guy's probably all good, but this guy's been stealing his medication. He's an amputee. It makes sense. He's a drug addict. We've got all these charges on him before, blah, blah, blah. I'm in handcuffs. I'm going to jail, you know? So I got lucky, man. I got fucking lucky. I probably shouldn't be here tonight. Well, anyways, how's it been going on your end? We haven't really caught up much in a while. I was going to ask you. I was talking with my mom's husband the other day, and when he was living in Northern California and he didn't have kids, the Bitcoin enthusiast. Yes.
Oh, the Bitcoin enthusiast.
So his hustle when he didn't have kids and he had nothing but free time is he used to buy salvaged bikes and just flip them. You ever considered doing something like that?
Yeah. That was one of my main just like side hustle concepts when I moved back out here was because in Montana it may not be high volume, but you can find those like barn find gems, those vintage bikes of any make and model that somebody bought.
Yeah.
Maybe have 5,000 miles on them or whatever, and then they got parked or whatever the case may be. That was one of my
let's expand on that idea.
It just kind of 3 months after I moved out here, I totaled the Gixxer and fucked myself up real good. But it's always back there. That and the 24-hour emergency roadside service.
That's
motorcycle.
Interesting. So my thought on the
setup.
My thought on the bike, and
it would be
putting out feelers for this shit. And look for a fucking good find. If you can find like an old Harley that's got potential coming out the ears, but it's rough and is going to cost some money, I might look to make an investment and we could split it. You know, like you said, if you got, and that's kind of what I was thinking. If you could find like an old fucking shovel head or something like that, and we could get fucking some parts going and shit. I don't know. Like, we would have to, look into it, but like this is something that is a possibility. I'm looking for passive income right now, and I wouldn't mind working you for it.
Well, fair. Hey. Fair enough, man. Like that's. I'm gonna send you a
That's
picture
the golden
right
rule, right? He who has the gold makes the rules.
You can throw up, but exactly. But yeah, that's the thing, man. Like I'm constantly, I feel like I've accepted for the most part. I'm probably never gonna be the money guy. So
the labor guy. You got to be the labor guy.
You got to have something. So if I'm not going to be the money guy, I got the skills. I got the skills guy. I'm the skills. So, but yeah, and I've really been trying to educate myself a lot with the vintage Harley Davidson. Like I kind of have a good bead on the Japanese.
There's not a ton of money in the Japanese stuff, though. Like the money's in the Harleys, the Indians, the Triumphs.
Not a lot.
That's where you're going to make the coin. Yeah. Is on those. And I know that the Jap bikes would be a lot easier to work on, and you could flip them a lot faster. But the margins aren't going to be there.
And that was the thing. Like, if I can find like solid Japanese bikes to just buy super cheap, and I know shops and I have connections back in California that are hardcore into the
which that would be good
market like that. Like there could be
in that era
by finding good Japanese bikes, but the big money.
The problem with these, like the Jap bikes for the hipsters, is where are you going to sell it?
For sure. That's what I'm saying. I know hipster.
Oh no shit! That's actually going on up in Montana. I didn't figure there'd be much there.
Vintage Japanese. Yes, it's a thing. No. I'm saying
Yeah.
I know shops in Southern California that specialize in that. And if I can find the original, like, good condition at super cheap prices, like I said, barn finds where some old farmer bought a 72 CB 550 that's super rare, but it's in super decent shape, and I can go pick it up super cheap.
Yeah.
Transport it to California, and you know,
I'm sure there is.
There is some money to be made there, but it's
not like if you find a 1920
like I said, it's a lot
Harley.
harder.
You find a 1920s Harley,
stuff.
and doesn't matter what model it is. It's a fucking 1920s Harley. It's 104 years old. Like that's where that was my initial thought. Because like I've been trying to expand. Like I need to find a way to bring in passive income, and me and you have a mutual friend that lives around here that like would be a perfect business opportunity. I just don't have the trust in the person because of what's going on around him. And it's a bummer because he needs the money. I could use the money and I think we could make it work. I just don't have the confidence, and if I'm being completely honest, you're not much above that, but you are going to work every day. So that's a little bit better.
This is true. I do have a full-time plus job.
Lastly, and then we'll get into some videos. I had
Okay, I just sent
Instagram?
I just sent you a picture.
Oh, I can't check it. It's on my phone and
text.
the whole
text.
Yeah.
Okay.
Grab it while I'm leading into this next story.
I kind of want.
All right. So I'm going to lead into this next
reaction.
story here. So I was at my my mom's for barbecue the other day. My cousin's in town. My cousin from Hawaii, and he's gay. He's a gay guy. He lives in San Francisco, and it's funny because like my nephew was here visiting like a year ago, and he's straight, and like my gay cousin gets fucked in the ass and is way manlier than my straight cousin, or straight nephew. I don't know how that works out. It just did. The funny thing though was like, if you sat him down and told him like, this is how Nick lines up A, B, C, D, all the way down on political items, all of it, he'd go, oh, we could never have a conversation. Like this guy's out there. Just no freaking way. And I know it. And that doesn't bother me because that's just who I am. Right. And funny, like we sat in the kitchen and complained about San Francisco because he lives in San Francisco. And we complained about San Francisco for a half an hour, just back and forth. The same gripes, the same shit is going on. And it's so frustrating because on one hand you go, look, you can get along with normal people. You don't have to be this, and I don't know if he's crazy progressive or not. Like, I really don't. It doesn't matter to me. I'm talking more along the lines of that type of person. I knew that type of person in San Francisco a lot, and they just don't want to bend on anything, even when you're making sense. So to me, it's like, if I'm making sense about A, B, C, why won't you hear me out on D, E, F? Right? Makes a little bit of sense.
Because is this the one that bends over and takes it up the ASS?
And that person is so propagandized into thinking that right-wing America, which I don't even fall under the category of right-wing America, but if you explained, briefly, that's how I would be categorized to that specific person, if I'm making sense here. Anyways, I thought it was interesting. I wish we could just like, hey, let's get off of San Francisco now, and let's talk about climate change.
Obviously, this is not the first conversation.
Oops, I fucked that up. I forgot to hit screen record. And that was a pretty good lead in too. I thought I was pretty on it right there. All right. This is Michael Mann, climate scientist. We've played his videos on here before. He's a fucking idiot. All right, here we go.
Obviously, This is not the first conversation we've had about this. It's sadly not going to be the last. This heat wave in the Northeast, the Great Lakes, could be the longest in 30 years, so about a generation. Is this what summer's going to look like from now on?
Yeah, hi, Brianna. It's good to be with you. And unfortunately, yes, this is a glimpse of not only what our future will look like, but in fact, it will look quite a bit worse than this. We will see more widespread targets more than and hotter and longer lasting heat waves in the future if we continue to heat up the planet. And so all of this gets worse if we continue pumping carbon pollution into the atmosphere and warming up the planet. That's the bad news. The good news is we can still do something about it. We have to stop making the problem worse by getting off fossil fuels.
Obviously. Isn't it funny that like we've played multiple of his clips on this show before? And if you like round robined them one after another, it'd be the same fucking report. He says the same thing over and over and over again. And it's just carbon, climate, heat, hot. You know, just beat him over the head with it. Just keep hammering it. You don't have to say anything. Hey, man, we want you to come on again. Well, I don't really have anything different for you guys. Who gives a shit? Come on anyways. Just give us the same old shit. We don't fucking care. You know? Come on. It's so stupid. I couldn't believe it because I'm watching. I watched this video today and it was a newer tweet and I'm like, all right, we'll see how this goes. And I watched it and I go, I swear to God, we've played this video before. And so I went into my hard drive and I pulled up our Michael Mann videos and I watched two more and it wasn't it, but it was also it. If that makes any sense. So, what do we got? Heat. It's going to get hotter, going to get harder. This is a glimpse into the future. Brutal heat wave. Dangerous temperatures right above it. You got to love it. So now we're going to move on to the Suspicious Observer. And this is one of my favorite YouTube follows. I watch his show every morning. He does like a 2 or 3 minute space weather news show where he talks about solar flares and filaments and all this cool shit that's happening with the sun. And this guy is so fucking smart. And he's another Electric Universe guy. So he's on the same, he's right there with Terrence Howard. You know, a little smarter, but in the same vein of crazy anyways. But he's always pulling up all of these studies every day. It's different study this, different study that. And it's just amazing, like, when you hear the mainstream corporate news narrative about climate change, it's just the same stuff. It's the same thing. They're not really showing you anything different. They're just beating you over the head with the same things because we're not trying to get nuanced about this. That's not the point. The point is to get tax dollars. That's all it really is. And if we can just hammer, maybe terrify some teenagers, we'll get it. And that's all they really care about. So,
well, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not even. I mean, in my opinion, it doesn't matter what the majority of the population thinks. They are just trying to sway the mindset of
because there's billions and billions of dollars on the line.
The amount of money that they're printing doesn't matter. It's going to happen
allocating
regardless.
where that money goes.
It's just
right. Like we're going to print the money. We know we're going to print the money. How do we get our biggest share of the money? And a lot of it is like if we started to get nuanced about this shit, you couldn't just blame the fossil fuel companies because right now, like this is something we've talked about a lot. 8 years of Joe Biden is not going to get you any closer to your 2030 climate goals. You have to have a boogeyman. You either have to have a Republican in there for a while, or you have to have the oil and gas companies as your boogie. It can't be our fault. We're the ones fighting this, so we can't be blamed for it, right? Yeah. And the more nuanced you get, the closer you get to, ending fossil fuels is going to do nothing. And I think that's the problem, really. And it just exposes them as frauds, complete frauds. So let's get into this block on the suspicious observer. Again, you
First,
should watch
we have a
this guy.
paper
He's
that is
great.
gingerly trying to convince the science community that looking into solar and cosmic ray forcing of clouds is needed. They find correlations but endeavor to communicate them ever so softly so as to not get flagged or branded as denialism.
I should have prefaced this. So his main point about climate change is that it's not driven by CO2, it's driven by the sun. Sun, the clouds, this big fucking bright light that heats us up every day. That's what's causing the climate to change or the weather to change. And we're in a solar cycle right now. Like, we've gone through this a little bit on the show where we're in the peak of a solar cycle. And when this cycle calms down, so are the temperatures. So with that, let's continue.
Politics at work in publishing. Finally, we have a less shy paper about the global electric circuit and clouds. The correlations here are delivered straight, and with what we already know from previous works on solar and cosmic ray impact to the global electric circuit, it is a simple next step evaluation leading to the solar and cosmic ray impact on clouds.
And again, as we know from our Nobel Prize winning physicist in quantum mechanics, the climate scientists don't like clouds. They can't account for them. Their models can't account for them, so they just leave them out. All of these models that show that we're going to be so hot 100 years from now are all done with a cloudless Earth. And what affects the clouds? Cosmic rays, solar activity. So with that, let's kind of continue. This should be basic science for anybody who's been through high school in the United States. Like, you should be able to go, okay, one of them is a trace amount gas. The other is the fucking sun. If you're doing the greater or lesser than symbol, the sun is greater than the CO2, always. It has to be. It's the fucking sun. Everything in this, if you believe in gravity, everything in the system is revolves around the sun. It's created because of the sun. Why is it that the sun would just stop affecting climate now? Doesn't make much sense, right? But when you hear these idiots, they're not talking about the solar cycles. All they're talking about is fossil fuels. Let me see if I've got the right one. All right, here we go. Got anything to add, or should we continue?
While solar irradiance measurements are well on their way to being corrected, which just happened in the last 3 years by allowing extreme UV and X-ray energy into the measurements as opposed to just a narrow range of UV light, the proton forcing from flux transfer events along the interplanetary magnetic field are underestimated in terms of solar joule heating impact. Solar wind and CME impact pushing Van Allen belt electrons downward, also underestimated. The heating caused by the various induction electricity effects from geomagnetic storms and the auroral heat injections, underestimated. All of these interact with the global electric circuit and have dramatic impacts on cloud microphysics, precipitation,
They don't like
heat
clouds.
on sunny days, lightning and storms, ocean temperatures, and more. Again, irradiance is getting fixed, we'll acknowledge that, but the vast majority of the actual solar impact on the atmosphere is left out of the models, and the joule heating they do acknowledge is real is wildly underestimated at every turn. It's still a major problem, and one that is getting worse here in the magnetic pole shift.
Ooh, I left that little teaser down there in the end. His theory is that we are in the midst of a magnetic pole shift, and it's going to destroy everything. So I very much hope that he is wrong, because he says it's going to happen in the next few years, and there's a whole lot of evidence that he points to. So I really hope this guy's fucking wrong about that. But he sure is smart about this shit. So now we know the climate models don't like clouds, so they leave them out. And they underestimated everything having to do with the sun and completely omitted X-rays. So we've got this, we're just getting bombarded with radiation all the time. Constantly, from the sun, from other stars, black holes. We're just getting bombarded with this shit. And all the climate models just leave it out.
Yeah. Yeah, because they don't they don't want you.
If it's not something that,
well, we've talked about how radiation
it's not dangerous, it's everywhere.
Is not poisonous, like it's everywhere. It's constantly flowing through everything and everybody.
It's called
Nuclear
background
reactors.
radiation because it's always in the background.
why is Bill Gates breaking ground on a nuclear power site?
I was going to bring a clip about that. That is supposed to be for AI, from what I understand.
Yeah, exactly. It is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's for AI because AI is more important than humanity.
Absolutely. How sick is that?
We're supposed to buy EVs. But the power grid can't support even a fraction of the amount of EVs that people would have to buy to exist in the United States alone. And nuclear reactors are the enemy, but Bill Gates, the savior, is breaking ground on a new nuclear site.
So I can't find
AI.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please,
no,
somebody
I'm
make
with
that
you, dude. I was paying attention. I was trying to find this tweet. Here we go. So somebody tweeted, Mark Cuban, a billionaire Republican, lays out the facts as to whether the choice in November is Biden or Trump. He's voting Biden, and hasn't even considered the many compassionate social issues I care about, including protecting our Mother Earth. Look at the facts. And then he replied, I won't vote for anyone who doesn't believe climate change is real. And guess what he did? Guess Mark Cuban, owner of the Mavericks.
Who said that?
And can you guess what he bought himself for Christmas this year?
Yeah.
I bet you can. No. Even better. A $20 million beachside mansion. He's already got enough private jets.
I was gonna say, how dare you, Mark Cuban, assume nature's gender? You son of a bitch.
Touche. Can I give you a coin for that? No, I'm going to have it up next time. All right, let's continue.
These cosmic rays are constantly bombarding the atmosphere from every direction in space. When they do, they quickly hit a molecule in the atmosphere, and that's when things get interesting. Because that is when each single cosmic ray begins a cascade of hundreds to thousands of charged particles and energetic phenomena. These juice up the atmosphere, including water droplets and the dust they cling to make the clouds. They impact the electric charge of the clouds themselves and the propensity to drop that rain to the ground. One of these occurs from every square meter of the atmosphere every second. Yes, we are in a soup of these particles at all times.
Everywhere. That's why it's called background radiation. It's what you were talking about before. It's just there. What's the cosmic microwave background? It's like the footprint, essentially, of the Big Bang. That's just always there. One of my favorite sci-fi series was Stargate Universe, and very, very cool thesis for the show. Essentially, was they found, I don't know how familiar you are with the Stargate universe, but ancient aliens built these stargates, traveled the galaxies, traveled the universe, exploring with these stargates. Went extinct. We find a stargate, kind of, go on the ride, essentially. So they find this old spaceship that's been out going for millions of years, like 20 million years or something like that. And they were ended up, one of the stargates they opened took them to this ship. And the mission of the ship was these ancient aliens that were very smart, a lot smarter than us, were able to find messages that were inlaid in the cosmic microwave background. And they believed that it was from a civilization in the previous universe or something like that. Got canceled after the second season, so we don't know what happened, which is a bummer. But
well, I remember the which I think is
it's a great movie,
the Kurt Russell movie. Yeah. That's what it was
before
based on.
That's
series,
what the
right?
Yeah,
so
the series spun off.
Like the Kurt Russell one,
and they
was
spun
like
off with
the
Michael
original.
Dean Anderson.
Yeah. That movie, that
Yeah, dude, it's
that
a
original
badass
movie.
I remember watching that when I
great.
was a kid.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
They're good.
The series,
SG1 is
I
great.
Never watched.
It's one of those like last of an era 90s 2000s TV show where there's not a lot of CGI. It's all like real effects and costumes and shit. And they do like 22 episodes a season. So if you watch like 11 seasons or 12 seasons, whatever it is, and it's like 20 episodes a season, and it's just unbelievable concepts. A lot of them, like they're just very good show for anybody who likes sci-fi and hasn't watched any of those. They're just great fucking shows. All of them are good. Atlantis is good. Universe was my favorite because Universe was more real. Like SG1 is very 90s kind of like funny and sitcom-y type of thing. It it's good. It's great. I love it. Universe is more gritty and real and like suffer and people actually dying and getting hurt. Like it's just more real, and it's cool because it was a completely different show than the other two. The other two were kind of interchangeable. They had some of the same characters would swap over and same, but this one was just by far the best one in my opinion. Let's continue. I don't know what this one's about. Let's see. This is interesting.
Outstanding paper up next does a total atmosphere look and finds all the warming since 2002 is actually at the polar regions. No significant trends since 2002 outside the Arctic and Antarctic, and they also predict a full reversal of the climate trend. In fact, they say it has already begun, will unfold over the coming years. We've also got professors from Princeton and MIT suggesting that net zero policies are not going to do much of anything but strip freedom and crash the economy. They describe it as the quintessential all pain, no gain proposition. Then again, the power grab in climate was always about money and control, not the weather.
Wait a minute. I thought 99% of climate scientists all agreed that global made man blah 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 blah. That doesn't sound like the mainstream narrative to me, right? I mean, what the fuck's up with that? That's the exact opposite of what Michael Mann just gave us for our future forecast. It's going to get hot. It's going to get hotter. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be dangerous. You're going to die unless you buy a Tesla. No. As soon as the fucking sun cools down, it's going to cool down around here. And that's the real scare. That's what the real scare should be, is the cold. I mean, all of the greatest times.
Yeah.
All the greatest times in human history all happened during the warmest periods. Every time it gets cold, shit goes down. Like production goes down. Crop yields go down. Everything goes down when it gets cold. Even like capitalism. You see like dips in GDP in all sectors when it gets cold because we are a lot better at dealing with heat than we are with cold. It is a lot easier to air condition a building than it is to heat a building. It's
a lot easier to do nothing in the shade all day and do what you got to do at night.
Okay, here we go. Here's the last one from the Observer.
Study here showing how vulnerable the AMOC is to disruption. Yes, that same one that can cause rapid ice age conditions, the same one weakening right now, the same one thought to collapse in the coming years, and the same one that will be even more impacted when the Beaufort Gyre releases.
So now, all right, what do we know about the Younger Dryas? Like if the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis is real, then we have a very cold planet in an ice age that gets a very large influx of heat. And what happens? All of that fucking water melts, all of that ice melts, and it gets even colder. It gets way fucking colder. So this idea that more heat is going to bring more heat is going to bring more heat is just not true. Like we know from all of these meltwater pulses that have happened throughout time that you add a big influx of heat and you melt all this water and it gets really fucking cold really fucking fast. And I mean, we've looked at these graphs before. It falls off a cliff right away. You can see a little bit, and then just boom, plummets like fucking Dogecoin, just gone. That's what we should be afraid of, you know? And the funny thing is, like, every once in a while, you can catch a mainstream scientist or mainstream, I think this guy, Flint Dibble, who was on JRE debating Graham Hancock. It was an interesting debate. He made some points that I thought were interesting. I've heard some other, like, retorts to where he kind of misrepresented some things. But when you start getting really into the weeds with this type of shit, unless you have an eye for what you're looking at, it's kind of hard to really tell. So based on watching this entire podcast, I do think this guy is a snake, and I do think that he would what's the term when you use data? You cherry. I think he would cherry pick, and I think that he would put spin on things to make points. I don't think Graham is beyond doing that either. Like, I think Graham does a fair amount of that, like, if we're being completely fair. So, like...
Fair.
But
yeah, fair.
As far as...
Yeah. Take it as you will, but that guy looks like he was cast in Indiana
dude, he
Jones.
He looks like a fucking South Park
He was
character.
one of the snakes in the pit.
So, if I'm trying to be objective, I like Graham, and I don't like this guy. If I'm trying to be objective, I would say that Graham came off more sincere than this guy did. But again, I'm biased, so who really knows? But it's always interesting that every once in a while, one of these guys, like, says the quiet part out loud, or maybe slips up. Like, I'm sure if somebody pointed out that he said this, he would probably be able to put a decent spin on it. But here's Flint Dibble saying the quiet part out loud.
And so this, I think, is really important because there really is, it's not just that there's no evidence for agriculture that early. We have evidence against it from those pollen cores, but also this article by Peter Richardson and colleagues points out that agriculture, it was probably too hostile of a condition for agriculture in the Ice Age. The reason why is because there's too little CO2. Plants need carbon dioxide to be able to propagate and grow and be grown intensively in particular. It's also a period of aridity. It's very dry because so much of the fresh water is trapped at the poles.
I thought
in the ice
CO2 was
sheets.
bad.
But this is not the case of the Amazon, right? And the equator, the environment would be different.
But we have pollen cores from those areas, and again, we have no evidence of any kind of intensive agriculture.
Interesting. You know, if you asked him in the context of climate change about CO2, he'd give you a completely different answer. You know, oh, it's dangerous. We're warming too fast and blah, 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 blah. But there, he fucking just told you there was not enough CO2 in the atmosphere during the Ice Age for agriculture. That is the most dangerous thing anybody has said on Joe Rogan's podcast in a long fucking time. Because, like, the climate zealots cannot face this. How are they going to explain to the masses that we are going to choke you out to the point where you can't even grow your own food anymore? I didn't know that. And that was, when I saw that, I was like, holy shit. Like, that is...
Well,
that's the cheat code.
That's kind of. I mean, it's
yeah.
not like was that botany, whatever the fucking science is, plant science.
Yeah,
plants breathe.
This is something
CO2.
I've pointed out a lot. Like,
so if humans produce CO2, you know what I'm saying? Like,
this is called the greenhouse effect.
Flourish.
I call it the grow house effect because I think it's better illustrated with the grow room than the entire planet. If you get a grow room of indoor weed and you buy yourself a fucking tube of CO2, a big old fucking deal, and you just let it rip, that garden will go insane. It goes insane. Dude, one time I was growing weed in Northern California, and we were getting dry ice to put on it because it was outdoor and we were just adding dry ice to it. I don't even know if that works. We were young and we were just fucking around. So I was working at the winery and I was stealing dry ice from the winery one day. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I got this like big Gatorade jug of it. And then I kind of hid it underneath a tank and I put the cap on. Dude, I fucking went at the end of my shift. I went over to go get it, and the thing was blowing up like a balloon. I looked at it and went, oh my God, this thing's going to explode. And I grabbed it with a forklift.
Just walk away.
And I took off into the vineyard. And I went out like a couple hundred yards. And as soon as I opened the deals and it fell down, it just boom, blew up like a son of a bitch. I almost got fired there, boy. All right. We got a couple more videos. Let's see. We got 10 minutes. I've got a couple cop videos. I've got our economic video that we surpassed last week. Let's give you the shot. What are you thinking? You want to go cops or robbers?
Oh,
robbers. Let's go robbers. All right. And
yeah.
We can see now how great our climate scientists are. Michael Mann, just a brilliant scientist, led us down the complete wrong direction. I can't imagine that the same thing is going on in our financial institutions.
The U.S. government can't go bankrupt because we can print our own money.
It obviously begs the question, why exactly are we borrowing in a currency that we print ourselves? I'm waiting for someone to stand up and say, why do we borrow our own currency in the first place?
Like you said, they print the dollar, so why
it's the chair of the Economic Council of Advisors for President Biden.
Again, some of this stuff gets, some of the language that some of the language and concepts are just confusing. I mean, the government definitely prints money, and it definitely lends that money, which is why the government definitely prints money, and then it lends that money by selling bonds. Is that what they do?
Is that what they do?
They sell bonds. Yeah, they sell bonds, right? Because they sell bonds and people buy the bonds and lend them the money. Yeah. So a lot of times, at least to my ear with MMT, the language and the concepts can be kind of unnecessarily confusing, but there is no question that the government prints money and then it uses that money to
murder and kill people.
Yeah, I guess I can't really talk. I don't get it. I don't know what they're talking about. Because it's like the government clearly prints money. It does it all the time, and it clearly borrows. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this debt and deficit conversation. So I don't think there's anything confusing there.
I don't think there's anything confusing there. Dude, you were just confused for 2 minutes. And there's really not anything confusing there. They could just print the money and give it away. But that's not good for business. You can't give money away. We got to sell it.
Money's not real.
We're going to print our fake money and then sell our fake money. Yeah. Dude, how wild is that? That guy is an economic advisor for the president. Unbelievable. I know more about monetary policy than that guy. I'm a fucking knuckle dragger. You know more about monetary policy than that guy, and you're not even into money.
Hey man, you got the Bitcoin. Dude. I got the bullets.
I couldn't believe that. Right. And he just and that was on a documentary. Can you imagine after that guy got done with the interview and he was just like, oh man, a normal person would probably be embarrassed about to go on a documentary if they didn't know what they were talking about. I would imagine after that guy got done, he's like, oh man, I fucked up. How am I going to kill this documentary and never let it see the light of day? Because that's what these fucking people do. He's not going to go and learn about it and go, oh yeah, I should have done that better. He's going to go, no, we need to censor this. This is dangerous. It's sickening, man.
Yeah, that's why you sign the release. You sign the release after you see the footage.
Fucking real, dude. And I mean, this is our monetary system. Money doesn't grow on trees. We were taught that our entire life, except it does grow on trees. The tree is just a printing machine now. And actually, it's not even a printing machine. It's just a fucking button on a computer. Dink, dink, dink. There's some more money. Yeah. I mean, literally all the shit that they taught us when we were kids was backwards and wrong.
You know what? That really pisses me off because they don't even have to go through the trouble of cutting down trees, processing the wood, making the paper, printing the money. It's all just computerized. Like what happened? What the fuck happened to the good old days where they actually had to print?
You know what happened? Fucking
bills. It's all just
Nixon happened. Digital. He took us off the gold standard. He said, "Hey, we can't keep paying for these wars if we have to have as much gold as we're spending. So let's just get rid of the gold." All right, let's get out of here on some words of wisdom. Here's Vanilla Ice on how to save money on taxes.
And you talked about how there's advantages of actually burying someone in your backyard.
Yeah.
And you said something about it when Trump buried his ex-wife in his backyard.
Yeah.
It got rid of all the liens.
Absolutely. Not just that. Hell, it's way beyond just liens. You don't owe any property tax forever. Never, ever again. This is why they just found out that this whole hoax that went viral about Elvis Presley in the state, did you see that?
No.
It's impossible. You can't go bankrupt with Graceland. You can maybe the business part of it, but the property will always remain with the family because of the burial site. It completely grandfathers it in. So you actually will never owe property tax on the entire property forever. Forever. You will also...
In every state?
Yes, in the United States of America.
So if I put a dead body in my backyard, anyone, right? Any dead body.
Your family.
Only my family.
You have to be your family.
Okay, so I kill somebody. All right. Who do I
you have to be related to them so that you have the tie to them.
That's amazing. All these years they've been telling us to listen to the professors and listen to the experts when we should have been listening to Ice Cube and fucking Vanilla Ice. And Wesley Snipes. They would have taught us about taxes, the FBI, the CIA, the drug game, fucking all of it. We would have learned, dude, we could have learned so much more listening to rappers than listening to our teachers. And on that note, we're going to get out of here. I'll see you next week, brother. Night, everybody. Take it easy. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, maybe. I don't know. Or don't.